If something wipes out $10 trillion of market capitalization in 2 days, you're probably on the wrong track. The United States is on the path of wrecking the world economy once again. I say once again because the U.S. has a bad habit of wrecking the world economy. It did it in 1930 with tariff increases, the infamous Smoot-Hawley tariffs, which were one of the major provocations that led to the worldwide Great Depression of the 1930s. It did it in 2008 by blundering in its forced bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers on September 14th, 2008, and that put the world into a tailspin, the Great Recession. Now it's doing it a third time. This is out of the fervid imagination of one person. This is not U.S. policy. This is not congressional policy. This is not U.S. public policy. This is Donald Trump's policy. He is single-handedly wrecking the world economy. And I think the damage is going to be done before it gets undone. So we're not in a good situation. The markets are not the only ones telling us that. We're hearing from business people all over the world that long-made value chains, supply chains for critical commodities, for consumer goods, for industrial products, for making automobiles, for making smartphones, you name it, are being profoundly disrupted. And we have somebody laughing as the world economy burns, and that is our president. So this is not at all a case with the silver lining, unfortunately.
Well, it doesn't look like there is any silver lining at this point in time, Professor Sachs. But, you know, you talked about the wrecking ball approach that President Trump seems to have taken and the impact it's going to have as far as global growth is concerned. But let's talk about America. You know, Larry Fink saying we're already in a recession. Bill Ackman, one of the biggest supporters of President Trump, coming out and saying we're headed into a long winter now as far as the economy is concerned. The impact so far has largely been felt in the financial markets. When do you start to see this impact the real economy?
If the survey data are correct, we're going to see it in consumer purchases declining sharply in the coming months because consumer sentiments are falling through the floor. That means that we're going to have a significant demand shock in addition to all the multiple supply shocks of disruption of global supply chains. These businessmen expected to be making fortunes at a business-friendly administration. For them to be speaking out after they invested so much money to buy the presidency for this person is also indicative of their state of mind. So I think what we're hearing, again, I'm not a short-term macro forecaster, but we're hearing that the odds now are odds on for a U.S. recession in 2025.
Odds on a U.S. recession in 2025. But let's talk about the latest development with respect to China. And the president saying that China is going to be tariffed higher, another 50%, which takes the total quantum to over 100%. China saying it will retaliate with countermeasures. Now, do you believe that the possibility of China selling U.S. bonds, it holds about $800 billion in U.S. bonds directly, you know, there are many in the market who believe that that will be the option of last resort. How do you believe China is likely to play this out?
China, of course, has been diminishing the share of its foreign exchange reserves held in dollars for several years now. China is not naive when it sees that the U.S. has confiscated the reserves of several countries now in which the U.S. has geopolitical opposition. So the U.S. took and froze, of course, the more than $300 billion of Russian reserves, technically in Belgium and Euroclear. The U.S. grabbed the foreign exchange reserves of Venezuela. It did the same for Iran. It did the same for Afghanistan. It did the same for North Korea. The U.S. weaponized the dollar well before this latest round of trade hand grenades. So China already has been diminishing its holdings of dollars. The BRICS have been working on, and I hope that they accelerate, non-dollar payments, because we're going to need, the world's going to need alternative ways to make payments when you have this kind of obstreperous and unstable government at what is now the core of the payment system in the world. So China definitely will not just sit there with its forex reserves in dollars. Whether it will act abruptly in a reaction or whether it will gradually continue the direction of sell-off, I don't know. But it will continue in the direction of disgorging itself of U.S.-denominated assets.
Here are the big takeaways from Jeffrey Sachs' CNBC TV18 interview about President Trump's tariff policies. 1. Tariffs are causing chaos. Sachs warns Trump's tariffs, like 26% from India and over 100% on China, are shaking up the world economy. He imagines markets losing $10 trillion fast, with supply chains for cars, phones, and medicines getting hit hard. This could mean higher prices and shortages, reminding him of the Great Depression and 2008 crash. He thinks we're heading for trouble again. 2. Trump's calling the shots alone. Sachs says these tariffs are Trump's idea, not America's. He's acting on his own, ignoring Congress or the public. Sachs sees Trump pushing forward without a clear plan, almost like he's not worried about the damage. That's a big deal, one person rattling the globe. 3. America might face a recession. Sachs predicts a U.S. recession in 2025. People are scared, spending less, and even Trump supporter Bill Ackman talks about a long winter. Tariffs on medicines, which were safe before, could make healthcare pricier. This will soon hit regular folks, not just stocks. 4. China's ready to lead. Trump's targeting China to slow it down, but Sachs says this pushes China to step up. It might sell its $800 billion in U.S. bonds or boost its currency against the dollar. China's also working with BRICS, India, Brazil, Russia, to keep trade strong. It's not staying quiet anymore. 5. America's losing its edge. Sachs thinks the U.S. isn't the world's leader anymore. By freezing other countries' money, like Russia's, it's made people doubt the dollar. Other nations won't trust America to keep things steady. BRICS, with 40% of the world's economy, could take a bigger role, and India's part of that. 6. India's in the mix. India's got its own 26% tariffs, probably to protect itself. As a BRICS member, it could benefit from new trade deals, but a global slowdown hurts too. Medicine tariffs might mess with India's drug exports, which America needs. India's got opportunities but also risks. Wrapping up. Jeffrey Sachs paints a tough picture. Tariffs could spark a global crisis, push America into a recession, and let China and BRICS shine. His warnings carry weight, but they're one side of the story. Others might argue tariffs could boost American jobs or fix trade imbalances. No one knows exactly how this will play out. Economies are tricky like that. What's clear is change is coming. Countries like India, businesses, and people everywhere will need to adapt, find new ways to work together, and stay hopeful. Tough times often bring out creativity and strength, so maybe we'll come through stronger than we think.